So in this playoff match to remain up, we found that Natasha Clawmac Attack is 1-0 down, but thought that was already out of this one already. So now we're looking for a must-win game, and then probably needs to win the next one. So Natasha's at the top of the page. Micha's starting. Now, the interesting card which jumps out immediately isn't so much a card as a project. It's crop rotation. Now this one is actually a very big one. It's more important than gold because it allows you to keep your victory points as efficient cards. So you can discard one for +2 cards, and it's called crop rotation, but it costs 6. So my first objective in these ones would be to try and get to crop rotation as quickly as possible. Another one which is quite important, but there isn't really another buy sitting around instantly that I'm seeing, is highway. This reduces the costs of other cards. So if you had 8 highways in play, because it gives you 1 card, 1 action, then all the other cards come down to 0. But the reason this isn't particularly strong is because I am not seeing a buy in the deck. So as you'll see, this is an action multiplier, as I call them. This is also an action multiplier which you can discard to get silver. The mine will draw you to 7 cards. These are base deck ones you probably are familiar with. The mine is a slow card which allows you to discard 1 card and get a higher valued one. Native Village is an interesting one which does speed up your deck as an action multiplier, because you randomly put the top card of your deck away and then you can get to call them back at some later point if you go into it. So crop rotation doesn't quite pick there. Cellar is another one for discarding 4 cards to get up to 4 cards, or actually any number of cards if you had a larger hand, and get back to it. But the only real hand increasing one is library, so there's no trashing card, this one which removes them from play. And quarry is an interesting one if you had a second buy, because it reduces your action card costs by 2, so it effectively works as a gold for one of these. But the thing is, there's no buy, so if you can't buy 2 things at once, that doesn't help. So coming more now to the other key cards. Now Natasha's gone for crop rotation, we discussed this before, and of course the quarry doesn't help with that. But there's Scrying Pool, which is an attack card which doesn't seem so significant to begin with, but I've been coming around to recognise that it can be decisive, because you get to choose whether or not to keep your next card, or your opponent gets theirs. Plus, you keep revealing until you find one which isn't an action card, and put all of the ones into your hand. So this could be quite a few action cards. And then we come up with the other one, which is, other than the highway, which isn't so useful again without a buy, unless I for some reason got an oversight, which I haven't. It's +1 card, +1 action again. But when you gain a victory card, you get +1 VP. So if you had all 10 groundkeepers in your hand and you had a trashing one, let's say the Native Village has got rid of all your other cards by some fluke, you would then be able to get 11 victory points from just buying in the state for 2 coins, which would normally, to get to 11, would require 17 coins and 3 cards. So it's a pretty powerful one, but both of them will be going for it. So far they seem to be concentrating on trying to reduce the cost of perhaps getting all their highways into play. No one's bought the Native Village, so no one's attempting to down their hand size. But Natasha has the advantage in that she has gone for crop rotation. Micha's plan hasn't yet come immediately to show. I mean, crop rotation is a little bit of a more obscure one to work out its value. I mean, I'm sure she'll get there eventually. But what Micha's can effectively do, in combination with the quarry and these highways, she can reduce the cost of action cards to nothing, but it doesn't do it the same for victory points or these ones. Similarly, you've got the Way of the Rat here. For this, instead of paying to buy one, instead of doing the action, you can discard a treasure. Normally one would choose to be a copper in order to get there. Natasha's action multiplier, she's gone for Plaza, which is how she's got this coffer here. When you get a copper or any treasure indeed, you can discard one in order to build up your buys for when it becomes more useful. But yeah, I'm not sure either of them have yet declared a clear plan for how they intend to deal with the situation of only having one buy. So it may just be fairly random early moves to an extent as people are moving towards it, because they haven't gone for the attack of the scrying pool or the native village. I mean, with Natasha's one, she can get more victory point cards without worrying about not trashing them. They are much more efficient, so I would perhaps start to be looking towards a groundskeeper, but neither of them have done that. They're just racing through the highways pile at the moment. So I'm expecting, probably, let's see this through, we expect the highways and groundskeepers piles both to empty. I mean, with one of these ones, it's very reluctant to let your opponent just dominate them without competition. But of course Micha has the comfort, if we are in a tight race situation, of knowing even if she loses this, she gets a second opportunity. I mean, conversely, one could argue that Natasha has nothing to lose, so there should be no more pressure on her in a way, because she's at a point there's not a lot of choice. So there we saw her discarding the estate, which gave her 2 extra coppers in this case. Now the mining village also gives a card action, so at the moment she's got 6 coins, and we'll see that the province, which normally costs 8, which is this number here, that's the number which are left, is now available for 6. So she can in fact just buy a province. I mean, there is a little bit of, once you've already hit this amount, what's the point of running through the rest of your cards? So this is probably what she's kind of discussing a bit. Okay, so she's not bought province, which is what I would have done. So she's gone for the groundskeeper. So she's now going for building up more power for a single buy. But, I mean, it doesn't matter on this game because she did draw 2 estates. But the fact is that as long as she has this crop rotation and Micha doesn't, victory points are of more value to Natasha than they are to Micha, because for Micha it becomes a null card. With Natasha, it's potentially not only not a null card, it can be replaced by one other as long as it was there before you drew it. So she gained again with the rat another groundskeeper. So clearly Natasha's plan is to accumulate lots of groundskeepers. I would probably look towards a native village here for 2 coins. An interesting one is even having changed the function of it with where the rat. Anything which occurs under this little horizontal line you see here, while this is in play, when you gain a victory card plus 1 victory point, this still applies even if you rat the card. And again, highway has it under the line as well, which is an interesting kind of feature. So what we saw Micha do just then was buy and gain a groundskeeper. Now Micha's advantage of the quarry is that her groundskeepers can be cheaper, but yeah, again, without a plus buy, it all remains pretty tight. Now I would like, whilst normally you wouldn't be looking to get victory points early on, to use way of the rat again for the mining village, but in this case the mining village's power does kind of stop working because it hasn't got anything underneath this horizontal line, so instead of the 1 card 1 action. So this 1 copper, I mean she could use a coffer and get a native village, or possibly a cellar, but cellar's less important when you've got crop rotation, or she could even get an estate. So at the moment, so you've gone for cellar. I think native village would have been a better choice. It's a slightly random in some respects to get one this late on. But I think both groundskeeper and highway are clearly going to run out. And it's still 3-3 on victory points. Now, because Micha's a little bit behind with crop rotation, which isn't reduced from highway. So highway, whilst it's effectively 1 card, 1 action, 1 coin, without having a second buy in play, it's not as useful for this. So now we can see the quarry allows her to get a second groundskeeper as well as the way of rat. So Micha's on 3 groundskeepers, Natasha's on 2. See, at this stage, I think, yeah, I would like to see Natasha get a few more victory points. I think Micha is about to get a province this turn. And it's like turn 11, you'd normally be expecting to start to move towards this. Whilst there is an attack card, no one's used it. So even though it would use up some coffers potentially. Oh no, she's on 2 coins because she trashed the mining village. I think we should be seeing a province to take a lead at this point. So she hasn't got victory card in her hand this time, which is actually not as efficient. But we'll see. Since Micha can't do a double groundskeeper, I think she'll be getting a province this time. She's got her 4 coins, she's rejoiced the cost of 4. But as I say, really it's like 1 card, 1 action, 1 coin, which is still quite a powerful card, but without the buy, with the buy it becomes huge, because then you could 8 coins, 2 provinces. And it may not be the easiest of adjustments to make even for players at this level. But Micha's by no means out of it. But again, still the advantage of crop rotation. There are still 30 golds in the pile, so no one has one of those. There's only 3 silvers gone, so there's not been a lot of money in the conventional case. 1 quarry. So there is also the possibility of stalling, despite if these highways don't come up. Now, this is where the coffers potentially come in useful. Now, mining villages, why there's slight hesitation, you can trash them to get a silver. I wouldn't do that on this occasion, but you can also rat. So I think she's trying to work out what other coins are in play. So she has trashed the mining village. So she's looking to get another province, hopefully. See, Vasella gets rid of 1 card, which is an estate. So she's got some highways. Now with 2 groundskeepers in play. Two coffers will bring it up to 5. Oh, she's already up to 5. There's a slight time delay on me seeing this. But yeah, so that was a second province. So it's now, without there being a buy, this is quite a substantial lead, because it's more than 2 province lead. Where are these actually 2? Oh, for 2 VPs and from the groundskeeper. Yeah, so province could potentially, with more groundskeepers, there is a slight racing effect of the groundskeepers. Excuse me, I should have brought some water to the table. If it goes to the 3rd match, I definitely will be doing that, but it's still quite a heated one. So there's 5 coins. Now again, with crop rotation, you could go for duchy here. We may see another groundskeeper come out. Yeah, I mean, that's a sort of defensive move. A bit to try and limit how much Micha will be scoring in 1 turn if it comes down to a race. But there wasn't a trashing card either, and neither of them have a native village. But again, there's no victory point card. I will just step away from commentary for 1 second to go get myself a glass of water, actually, because yeah, I'm doing no good at the moment. So, having broken the golden rule on the commentary and giving you all silence, of course assuming all this is working without technical ones, we see Micha accumulated the last groundskeeper. But she still didn't get any victory points for this one. So So whilst there isn't a lot of treasure in play, it basically comes down to the highways. Now I'm not quite sure what the counts on both of these are, but I think they both have roughly 4-5, so it's like 4-6 or 5-5 on both groundskeepers and highways. I think Micha possibly has the advantage there. But Natasha has these 6 coffers in play. Now on this occasion, getting a duchy or makes sense. You could also get an estate or even a province if you used all the coffers, but you get 2 from your groundskeepers. But she doesn't want to use them all up because she may want that later when it comes close to the race situation. So now we're looking at a 15-point lead. So Micha's cost of a province is down to 4 here because of these highways. So we'll see a province with a +1 from the groundskeeper. This one, there's a potential very big buy for Micha because he's got 3 groundskeepers. But over the course of the deck, the number of groundskeepers should level out. So I think Micha's basically going to have like a 2 VP advantage a cycle per buy, but I don't think there are enough cycles for it to catch up, not in conjunction with the crop rotation. Now Natasha's, I think she's used 1 coffer because she had duchy costs have gone down to 3. So down to 5. I mean, realistically, at this stage, Natasha should probably be looking just to empty a pile. So, even though the provinces are worth more. So Micha's now pulled within 7, so that's quite strong. But still, I think it's the crop rotation gives enough of an advantage. I mean, Sellers kind of looks like it's speeding things up, but it's not such a big advantage as it might have been. So Natasha now has a choice of using her coffers to get a province or just to get a duchy. So she's decided to get the province, still leaving her 2 coffers, reopening up her lead to 13 points. So there's now, well, whilst there's superficially only 18 points on the province, I mean, realistically, I think we need to add 4 to that. So it's like 22 points. So 38, 31. Yeah, I think one more province, and then equal buying is probably enough for Natasha to win this. And that's assuming that the groundskeepers are 6-4. If they were 7-3, because I kind of, with the way they're at, kind of lost track a little bit of how many each player got. Then potentially it's closer than that. As I said, there's only 3 silver, so this quarry was very useful for victory point cards, not so useful for this. So Micha's still kind of bought a duchy, so she's still kind of running down the 3rd pile. It keeps the scores quite close. So yeah, we're seeing this lead close out from the groundskeepers, so we're now only seeing a 6-point lead. So when she discarded an estate, she drew another estate and a groundskeeper to her hand, so it's still going a bit faster. So now again she has a choice. She could just get an estate, but I think it was a duchy she went for. So it's kind of threatening to end this pile a bit. So the lead's now down to 10 points. It will run quite close. I mean, at the moment we're not seeing any green cards in Micha's hand, but she still has a few. But the green cards are a pure hindrance in here, but in Natasha's we're seeing 3 of them. But neither of them have trashed anything, apart from these minor villages. So back to the log. So Micha got another province. It's 34-36. You can really see how tight these things may be getting. Because even with this discard, Natasha's got a lot of green ones. There's only one hindrance card here. So I think Micha must have had, while she didn't get the crop rotation, the advantage on these. So it's going to be a narrow advantage. Now it's the question of, does she use the 3 coffers to get a duchy? There are 2 provinces left. And really she wants the province rather than the duchy. So I think we'll just see an estate get bought. Because to go through 4 duchies as opposed to 1 province. No, but she was gone for the duchy, so she's still trying to close out the pile. There are probably the highways in play to make it valid, but you'll see that she's now hasn't got a spare coffer any longer. But it's a 7-point lead, and as I say, these are a little bit iffy. I think it's still basically going to require it to go 1 province each. Now Micha's life's been made a little bit easy by not having been put in the position, and she's going to duchy. Now the discard of this one's made her hand significantly stronger. Now it's a province or a duchy. Now if she gets a province, which there, I mean, it's not necessarily right to be playing through all these cards, extra cards here, because you can already see the province. When she gets the province, I don't think Micha's going to have enough groundskeepers to be able to be sure of either way. Because if she buys a duchy, she still then will allow Natasha to close it out with either a duchy or a province. And whilst we can see that Natasha's hand's not guaranteed to even get a duchy, Micha can't know that. So she would basically require at least 4 groundskeepers and get a province. So at the moment we can see 2. Here's the 3rd. Okay, 4. Oh, she actually may have enough. I think I may have spoken too soon. No, she's 1 coin short from what I'm seeing. But this is going to be pretty tight indeed. Now she's working it out. If she gets a duchy, then Natasha would only need to get duchy. So I think we're going to actually see an estate get bought. Now she's bought the duchy. So now Natasha needs to hit 5. You can see 3. She discards for the crop rotation. She's discarding now for coffer. It doesn't really make a lot of difference, but she might as well do the same thing again for this, because it allows her seller to maximise. She discards again for a coffer. No, she didn't do that. Oh, I think she should have kept that copper, but it doesn't matter. She still hit it. So we're going to see the duchy bought. And so it was close. I think crop rotation is what won it. So Natasha's still alive. It's 1-1. We're going to a deciding match, which if it's drawn still won't be that. So tune in for the next thing, which will be starting almost immediately, but there will be a different recording for that one.